have no idea where this will lead us, but I have a definite feeling it will be a place both wonderful and strange.
Hey, welcome back to Investigating Twin Peaks. I'm JD Mendoza.
And I'm Garon Atencio.
We just finished watching the pilot episode, and I want to hear all about Garon's thoughts. Mr. Garon, you had not experienced or seen any Twin Peaks before. What did you think?
Not. It was a lot. It was a lot to take in. Like, I have notes. I feel like I'm back in school again. I'm taking notes. It was, like you said, was a slow start, but it was something where it was slow because you're learning, you're not even really learning yet, but you're getting hit with all these different people and different characters and different, like, wondering how they all fit into the story, which, I'm someone who wants answers. And it's like, you didn't really get anything. You didn't get answers.
Yeah, it's a real ensemble piece. I think that was certainly an influence on Lost. Lost came along and had such a massive cast.
Yeah.
And similarly, this one does as well. And I think that, even with an extended episode like the pilot, I believe is an hour, 20 minutes, you're still only given glimpses of the characters. And one of the things that I thought was really lovely about the beginning, its opening shot, the first character we see is Josie Packard, played by Joan Chen, and she's putting makeup on in a mirror. And I think that is kind of an excellent introduction to the series because there's so many characters that you meet in this episode. You meet them and you may think one thing about them, but they're all kind of wearing masks. There's something going on. They all have secrets, and there's a mystery to each one. So in this rapid succession, you're introduced to all these characters, and almost all of them have something about them that you're unsure about, or there's clearly a secret there, or something going on underneath what they're presenting you.
Yeah, see that? It throws curveballs, even in the pilot episode, to where you're not sure exactly your stance on each character. Or even in general, in how their point of view in the incident, or their point of view in what is actually going on.
Yeah, like Audrey, who's the lovely young lady in high school, that there's some type of, she's a bit mischievous.
Yeah, okay.
And when Donna realizes that Laura is dead in the classroom, and she starts crying, and James is being stoic and trying to bottle up his emotions, Audrey has that little subtle smirk on her face, like what's going on in your head? Like,
yeah.
Even if you weren't close with her, you clearly knew her. Like, she's three steps back from you, and in this small town, you're having a reaction to her death.
Like that.
Like, what's going on?
It was a little weird. It was a little weird watching that because I was like, yeah, you have the reactions. You have crying. You have James, who is, and of course, I'll get better at the names the more we watch. You have James has his reaction of anger, is what I feel like.
Even the sequence of events in that classroom scene, I think, it's really well put together. The name list, calling people's names out, and then she's interrupted by the police, and everyone's a little like, whoa, what's going on here? Yeah. And then immediately that girl outside the window just screams and is running through this courtyard, and it's like, it's very uneasy. It gives me goosebumps. Like, it's, even though it is over the top and ultra dramatic, there's an authenticity to it that is very makes you feel uneasy.
And that's actually a point I was going to actually make, was the first, I think, 10 or so minutes, maybe up until that point, it was like, oh, this is very over the top.
Yeah, it's soap opera.
It is soap opera. You're like, what am I, like, okay, all right, let's see what happens, kind of thing.
Is this trash? Is this junk?
Is this what is really am I sitting here and you're trying to pay attention and everything, but then the more you get into it, it's almost like, I don't think it gets less over the top. You just open up to it more. Yeah. And you're like, okay, all right, no, this makes sense. No, this is this town, and it reminds me of actually, not me per se growing up in a small town, but it is that sense of people in small towns are very over the top. Yeah. And not saying anything about small towns because I've grown up in one, but like you have that experience of just like, those people who are over the top. And someone...
And everybody knows everyone.
Everybody knows everybody's business, everybody, and so like, it does have that where she had that smug look on her face. It does have that like, why was it like that? But it's a small town. Like I mean, like yeah, someone.
It makes every character feel like a real person. Like, I didn't grow up in a small town, but I spent many years in one. And immediately when I saw Audrey react like that, it was like a firecracker. Oh, I know that person. I know that's exactly how so-and-so would have reacted in that moment, that quickly. And I think one of the things that you're saying, it takes about 10, maybe 15 minutes to like allow the town to, like, you're visiting another place.
Yeah.
And the town itself feels very authentic. I think it's when Cooper enters the town himself, you're going along with him as he's introduced to the town. And that gives you this foundation of being like, oh, okay,
it's
I'm
kind of
not
in a
so
sense
lost.
nowadays. For the sense of nowadays, I would have to say it's like I Googled about Twin Peaks, and that's what the first 15 minutes was about me learning about it. But now I'm actually going there with Cooper. You know,
Yeah.
he's our guide.
He's our POV.
Yeah, he's our
character.
POV character very much.
I think it's also very skillfully plotted in a way of, usually when you're introduced to a foreign and slightly off-kilter environment, there's another character that's introduced as well that is your POV, like Cooper.
Yeah.
But this episode doesn't even really let you be within the mundane of Twin Peaks, because right away, here's this dead prom queen.
Yeah.
Who's this focal point for the entire town. So the entire town is thrown upside down the moment you're entering it. Mark Frost and David Lynch, they certainly didn't know when the pilot was picked up and it was sold, or for them to make it at least. They didn't know that it was going to go to series. Both of them have been on record to say, like, well, here they're giving us this money to make this pilot. Let's just have fun, and it will never go to series. We're just going to make this episode however the hell we want it.
And that's why it's like an hour and a half long almost.
So they made it, and it feels like they're confident they're not answering to anybody. Like right from the opening credits, which is really beautiful shots of the town, very, very slowly paced, and gorgeous music playing. Angelo Badalamenti does the score for the series and the movie and much of David Lynch's work. And you're introduced to the series itself through these opening credits, and right away it sets the pace for the show, almost in a challenging way.
Oh yeah.
Okay, take a moment,
Yeah.
look what's happening, let yourself really observe it, and you're going to see things and catch things that will help you further down the way.
Yeah. And it takes that small town vibe. It is slow pace.
Yeah, I think that the barrage of different types of stories that they're telling. There's that one scene where Coop and Sheriff Truman are going through a small pile of Laura's belongings that they got from her house after her death. And they open her diary up, and Cooper's talking about, I have a feeling in this bag, we're going to test it, and it's going to be cocaine.
Yeah.
And Truman's like, no, like, you don't know Laura Palmer.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll find something out about
Yeah.
Laura Palmer. And even though we've never seen Laura alive, other than just on this videotape that's shown throughout, as a viewer, we don't like the idea of Laura
already
being tarnished.
having a bad rep. We don't even know
no,
her,
wait,
and we're like,
no.
I know she was prom queen. Like
we're kind of against that idea.
We're giving her the best foot forward before we know about her. You know, it's like,
and that's really cool. But you go from there, and then Coop picks up that, he's talking to Diane.
Yeah.
Here's a box of chocolate bunnies.
Yeah.
And that cocaine unease is like thrown off, and you're laughing, and then it cuts immediately to Andy finding the train car where the murders happened.
oh yeah.
And it's all blood and wet and real discomfort in that scene. And Andy's just breaking down and saying, it's horrible, tell him I didn't cry. And it's just kind of a roller coaster of emotions that you're feeling within the span of moments. And it just continues throughout the episode. It really keeps you on the edge of your seat and also on your heels. Like, I don't know what to expect.
This reminds me a lot of, and I can see where all those shows like X-Files and Lost, and now even Stranger Things. I honestly couldn't. I almost thought I had watched the first episode, or I'd watched the show before, just because I had watched those series. And you just get that feel in that small town, and that investigation, and that. So yeah, it's crazy to see like how a show from 25 years ago has influenced even to this day.
Oh yeah.
Stranger Things that just came. You know, that's so recent, and I'm watching that, and I'm like, oh my god, I can see that. You know, I can be like, you can see that they have taken and been inspired from this show.
Yeah, I was really curious because Garon is very much in tune with having his phone going and his iPad going and his computer going and television in the background, because you know he's just going, and because this show is so slowly paced, I was curious to see if you would be engrossed enough with it.
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah.
And one of the things I was hoping for is that, like you said, that deliberate pace.
Yeah.
It's indulgent, but it's not overly indulgent, and it's almost like when somebody is whispering to you.
Yeah.
If they're charismatic enough, you strain to hear them. You challenge yourself to lean forward a bit. And I think that series, the pacing of it works in a similar way.
Yeah. The line that I wrote down, Donna's sister.
Yeah. Oh, she's barely in the series. I think she might only appear one more time.
That's funny.
Harriet.
That's funny. Because that line, her saying when Donna goes out the window, and I think she says something like, now that time has passed, it's amazing to see, or something like that, how full blossom of the evening, or something like that. And I'm just like, what? So random, but like creepy, but like, what is going on? And it's funny to know, like, just like, what? And just, and then it ends, it cuts on that line. Like, it's like, all right, cool. All right, cool. Whatever.
Yeah, all of the poetry, all of the songs. Julie Cruz makes an appearance in this episode, singing at the Roadhouse. And her and Lynch, I believe Lynch wrote all of the lyrics, and then Julie Cruz, and Angelo Badalamenti worked on all the music together and created all that stuff. And there's music and sound is very, very important in the series entire. And things like the wind between the leaves, and seeing it, taking time to just have a shot of the woods and the leaves moving in the wind, and taking time to have a shot of Laura's fan outside her bedroom door, and the lights. That's an important intersection.
Oh, okay.
That light that changes is at the corner of Sparkwood and 21, and James at the end says, the night before, him and Laura came to the stop at Sparkwood and 21, and that's where she screamed that she loved him and told him all this stuff, and then took off, and that was the last time he saw her. So you'll see those images recur throughout the series, and they change significance throughout. Considering that they didn't know they were going past this, it's clear right from the get-go that the mysteries that they're putting forward, they at least have ideas of what the resolution.
It's like we don't expect it, but
every single thing, like the log lady, we see her for 2 seconds just holding a log and turning lights on and off to get people to settle down at the town meeting. Yeah. And that's it for her. But she becomes such a great character moving forward in the series. We actually watched, after the series was off the air for a couple of years, or maybe even longer, Showtime picked it up and started to run reruns. And as a promo, David Lynch filmed and wrote Log Lady introductions for every episode. And they're really fun to see, and they give some more insight and some more baby answers to certain questions that are raised in the series. And they're available on the entire Mystery Blu-ray box set that came out last year. So we're going to be watching those before every episode. And if you have the ability to do it, you should, because they're special.
I don't know if I like Bobby.
Bobby Briggs is Laura's boyfriend, but we actually first meet him, and he's making time with the waitress, Shelley. Yeah. And both of them, it's clear, are keeping it secret from the majority of people. You were talking about when Harriet says that poem. Yeah. She's writing that poem. One of the things I like about that scene is that because it's such a small town, and clearly things don't go awry that
Yeah.
often. Like Andy starts crying when he sees the dead body.
Yeah.
And even though Sheriff Truman says, Andy, is this going to happen every damn time? It doesn't. He says, it's just like last year in so-and-so's barn. You get a feeling that it was about a dead animal that was at the barn, certainly not like a murder.
No, yeah.
You know,
yeah.
like this is something that's very unusual. And when Harriet is writing that poem and Donna comes in, and she's going to sneak out, even though her best friend just got murdered, she's going to sneak out after dark, after curfew. And you're uncomfortable, like, don't do this, what are
Yeah.
you doing? But there's still a mundane quality to it, like Harriet's like, oh, then, you know,
Oh, in that case,
you put air in my tire. And she's like, well, brush your teeth, you know? And
Yeah.
it's still cute, and it's still, there's like this innocence and wonder to it. Coop.
Yeah.
Coop has that throughout, where he's like the Douglas firs, and, oh, I saw this bunny,
Yeah.
shoshu rabbit, or whatever. And I think that wonder is infectious, regardless of what is happening in the series, what you're watching. You still would like to visit Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
You would
yeah.
still like to go there and go to the diner and have a piece of cherry pie.
Yeah.
And you feel like, I bet Twin Peaks has the best tasting coffee and cherry pie that you can imagine. Like, I didn't grow up in a super small town, but I had a similar experience. But still, and maybe it's because I'm Canadian, Americana and Norman Rockwell, that nostalgia for that is always near and dear to me. I kind of always long for it in some way, the innocence of it, and
Yeah.
then an exploration of the darkness that lies
Yeah.
underneath is very fascinating
Yeah.
to me. Do you feel a nostalgia for something like this when you see it, or do you feel that is it still something that you would like to visit? Does it seem unique, or because you kind of grew up in an environment like that, is it kind of been there, done that?
Honestly, I think it would be, it's nostalgia. Like at first, like it's not like, no, it's not like, oh, I've been there, done that, and kind of thing. I don't think it would ever be that feeling, even if it was like I lived in this big city, kind of like, and it was about a big city. It's nostalgia. It's, you go back, you're like, oh yeah, I know these people. You put because people who can relate to, that's the whole point of it. You write so people can relate, and they relate by knowing that person, regardless of growing up in that same situation or not. You're gonna find someone to relate to. You know, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, you know, Officer is just like my Uncle Buck, or it's just like this, you know, that kind of thing. Where it's like, you're gonna find something to relate to, and it doesn't have to be the fact that it's a small town. It's the characters that you're relating to.
Coop's character, it's interesting when you watch Kyle MacLachlan in this first episode. It's clear that his character isn't entirely defined or found. It's a bit jarring when you see him in the pilot after you've seen the rest of the series. In itself, I don't think it's a flaw that it's like that. They just delve deeper a little bit with the character and defined him a bit more, as is the case with all these things.
Exactly. Yeah.
Some of the styles in this pilot are a little bit dated. There's quite a few people with pretty impressive mullets, and
Mullet.
even though it's hours between this episode and the next episode, you can tell that there were many months in between the filming, and a lot of the styles of the characters shift slightly.
Okay, gotcha.
I also thought that it was interesting, there were so many moments where characters were communicating through devices. Like, Pete calls Harry to tell him that he found the dead body. Laura's mom calls Leland looking for Laura, and then finds out through the phone that her daughter is dead. The principal announces it over the speakers. Coop is talking to this mysterious Diane. Josie at the mill announces we're closing for the day. It just continues throughout the entire episode. Like, Doc Hayward tells Sheriff Truman that his daughter is missing.
Yeah.
And I just think that it's an interesting device. Usually, especially for shows at the time, you would film a two-shot and then you'd go over the shoulder, back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, it's not even on the actor who's talking, it's on the reaction shot. And it's just interesting that they take one of the characters out of the emotional moment by not showing their reactions and what is on their facial expressions in certain times.
Yeah.
And I just think that that's, again, I don't know what they were deliberately going for, but it's got that hidden quality to it where even though you sound like this and you're presenting yourself in this way, behind the scenes, what are you actually feeling and what are you really doing in the moment?
$10,000 in the box.
Yeah.
A lot of Girl Scout cookies.
It's a lot of Girl Scout cookies.
That's a lot of Girl Scout cookies.
And then you see the magazine, Flesh World, and circled a picture of Ronette, the woman that's
Now.
in a coma.
Gotcha.
And you've never really met these characters. You don't know them,
Yeah.
but you are the POV of Sheriff Truman, and he's
Yeah.
just like, I don't believe it. What's going on? And you're immediately wondering how far this rabbit hole, how deep it truly is, and how dark it's going to get. One of the things I think, usually when there's sexual violence in a show or film, or anything really, it's one of the things that I don't like it in my escape. You know, like it brings me right out of it. Lynch is my favorite storyteller, probably. And sexual violence is in almost every single one of his movies. And for some reason, it doesn't turn me away. It's always handled with the appropriate, I feel like the appropriate level of weight.
Gotcha.
And a sensitive level of weight. There are a lot of women that are very sensitive. A lot of people, but women especially, that are very sensitive to sexual violence. And most women that I know about Lynch love his work.
Love it.
They love his work. So there's something within the way that he deals with that subject that is sensitive enough that it's not going to push you away from the content. And Ronette, Coop, when they see her in the hospital, he asks the doctor, was she raped? And she says several times. And you're not thinking to yourself, I can't believe that these storytellers are being so insensitive and just throwing that out there.
Yeah, throwing that word and everything.
You're just like, oh, that's horrible.
Yeah.
You're thinking about Ronette, this young woman that has gone through this terrible thing. And immediately you want Coop to find who did it and put an end to it before it happens again.
You're on their side. It pulls you in rather than pushes you out.
Yeah, I think so. The scene outside of the ending scene, which we'll talk about in a couple minutes, I think the darkest scene in this episode is the exploration of the train car where this terrible tragedy happened the night before, and it's wet and water droplets and all the blood stains are it looks real. It looks, the low lighting, you don't want to see anymore, but because of the way it's lit, because of the way it's filmed, you're kind of like them in that moment. You're not like, oh God, I stopped showing this. I don't want to see this. You want to go further in there, and you want to explore that alongside Coop and Truman, I think.
Yeah.
They find something very important there, which is...
Is it Fire Walk?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Fire Walk With Me.
Yeah, there's that mound of dirt.
Yeah,
On
mound
top
of
of the
dirt.
dirt is the half-broken necklace, heart-shaped necklace.
Yep.
And at the bottom of the mound of dirt is a piece of paper
says-
written in blood.
Written in blood, yeah.
Fire, walk with me.
Yeah.
Any
Which I
thoughts?
don't even know. That's the thing. It's like I said, there's so much that was thrown at you in this episode. How was it left behind? You know, like that kind of thing. Like, when did she write it? Or when was it written? You know, kind of thing. Because, yeah, it is in blood.
Right.
So it's like, was that left behind? Like,
Did she write it? Did the
did
killer
she
write
write
it?
it? Yeah, like,
Yeah, during the investigation, every piece that we're given of this puzzle in this pilot pretty much leads to another question.
yeah.
And like you see this necklace, it could have been a full heart, but immediately you're not thinking like, oh wow, that's fascinating. It's what's that mean?
Yeah.
Immediately you think, where's the other half of the necklace?
Yep.
And that's one of the rare things that they set up a question and then answer it immediately. It cuts to James, who has that.
Yeah, it threw it all around. It is that small town. Like, it honestly is that small town feel of like, okay, wait, you love her and he loves you, but you love them and he loves you, and are you? And like, I'm like, who's in a relationship in this town? And that's why I went to James and I'm like, wait, so did he love her? And then he's sorry, but he's not sorry. And then they kiss, and then, you know, it's like, what is going on here?
Right.
And it's like, because when I saw, I'm glad they let us off the hook, because there was that moment of, oh, does the killer have it? But I've been there. I've had those kind of necklaces. Right. Who has the other half usually of those necklaces? Either your best friend or your significant other. So it throws you off when it's not Bobby.
Right. One of the shining moments of Cooper, I think, in this episode is when he's interrogating Bobby and says, just very bluntly and coldly, you didn't love her anyway. Get him out of here. You know, he says that to Bobby. You know, he's just like shuts him down.
Yeah, and he writes on the thing. He's like, nope. He didn't do it. And he's like, you didn't love her anyways. And like, he read him like a book, even though. Yeah, it was almost to the point where it's like, okay, this guy's saying all the right things. He says he loves her. Yeah. It's like, that's not even the right answer. Yeah. You're not even giving. That's not. Right. I know you didn't do it now. Yeah. But now you're just lying to all of us.
And it's actually really very well plotted, because he asks Bobby, did you ever do cocaine with Laura? And Bobby pushes back and is like, I don't take drugs. And that's immediately when Coop says, okay, you didn't love her anyways. He did not do it. Because he immediately catches him like, oh, you totally did drugs with Laura. Yeah. Now I've recognized how you lie. And I've read you like a book.
Yeah, I've read you like a book.
I knew you were keeping something. Yep. He just dismisses him after that. Like, he's got bigger fish to fry. And I think that is very telling of Cooper, and the dynamic that they set up between Cooper and Truman is interesting, because it's like Sherlock Holmes and Watson.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's really cute. There's moments between them right from the get-go that you just enjoy watching them together. Like, why am I whittling? And he's like, okay, I'll bite. Why are you whittling? And he says a great line, which is, because that's what you do in a small town when a yellow light still means slow down, not speed up. Yeah. And another thing that you were talking about, this person having sex with this person and kissing this person. The scene at the end between Donna and James, I think, is really very well shot and performed. Mm-hmm. Both actors, I think, have never been better or as good as they are in that scene again. And it feels. Maybe it was really late when they were filming that, and they were freezing, and they just had to just go for it. Let's just go for it.
We got to get this out of here.
They're whispering, and you can see it in Laura Flynn Boyle's face, like Donna's face, like she's frozen, like she looks like she's like doesn't have any blood in her skin anymore, like she's super cold. But the two actors together, just the way that the audio in it, the whispering. Mm-hmm. And then the transition from what James reveals about the previous night and his encounter with Laura is such a hushed tone, a secret, you know, and it's very private, turning into something between them, these two people that have lost something very dear to both of them. Yeah. Finding each other in this special moment is so intimate and private, and it feels very real. There was such like an explosive chemistry. I think that scene, if that scene didn't exist in this pilot, I don't think the pilot would have been as successful. I think that you're kind of, even though Donna's supposed to be with Bob or Mike, and James was kind of with Laura, and you feel bad, and like, they're kind of cheating on others. Yeah. You care about them in that moment so quickly, and their relationship, and you want them to be solid together. I think it's kind of the shining moment of the episode that lays the foundation for the rest of this season and series. I think it's pretty special, and I love the way that it leads to the final moments in the episode. We've got Laura's mom on the couch, resting or sleeping, and what occurs there?
I have no idea. She's laying there, and at first it's you see the moment of in the woods, and the hand come down, and then she wakes up and screams. In my first impression, I'm like, this lady can see things. She's well, either she can see things, and then that's just crazy. And now it takes this whole thing for a whole loop into another dimension.
Yeah.
You know,
Like what
X-Files
type of show
style.
are we going
That's
to
when it's
be
like, oh,
watching?
X-Files. All right, I got you. I see what you're doing. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think that that's a special way to end. Like, it's a great cliffhanger. Because it does throw a few things into play that is interesting. One, is that the killer?
Yeah.
Was he following Donna and James? Which is kind of dark. And saw them bury that necklace. Does that mean they're in danger? Now he's got the necklace. Why does he want the necklace?
It's the one-armed man.
There are a couple things. No, that's a perfect segue because
It's like,
we see a couple characters. I mentioned the log lady earlier that become very important later on. Bobby's dad, the Major Briggs, he's in
Yeah.
it for like barely anything at all, and he's one of the shining lights of the entire series. He's excellent. And we also see a couple of others. One is this one-armed man that's in the elevator with Truman and Coop as they're at the hospital. And he just kind of walks out and takes off. And it's so jarring. There are other things that are weird in the show, but there's something about the log lady and this one-armed man that I feel like immediately he gets like a big close-up and then just walks that way. It's too deliberate.
yeah.
So you have a sense that he's going to play an important role in some way or the other. And I know you didn't notice, and we're actually going to go back and watch the final shot of the show. You all should watch it again if you didn't notice something special about the shot. We'll discuss it a little bit more
In the
next
credits?
time. Not in the credits. In the final shot, there's something really extraordinary that happens. The story behind that is just as extraordinary.
The hand?
No,
Or the waking up?
the waking up. So there's something going on within that frame. If you look closely,
There's a
you'll
shadow.
see it. We'll see.
We'll watch it.
Yeah.
We'll watch it.
You guys
Go
should,
watch it.
yeah, go back and rewatch the final shot and pay particular attention. And there's something special that happens there that plays potentially the most significant part of the series.
What? Cool.
So we will watch that. I think that might be kind of it. I wanted to do a couple fun facts here that I read about the series, and a correction on one of my earlier statements. It was not Showtime, but Bravo that Lynch wrote and directed the Log Lady intros for. Showtime is the network that the series will be on when it returns in 2017. The pilot and series was originally named Northwest Passage, and sometimes the pilot is referred to as such. Lynch and Frost originally pitched the idea to ABC during the WGA writers' strike in 1988. They wanted to mix a police investigation with a soap opera. There was an agreement with ABC to shoot an additional ending to the pilot so it could be sold directly to video in Europe as a feature, if it wasn't picked up as a series. This European version is on the entire Mystery Blu-ray box set. It contradicts some of what later happens in the series, though, and Lynch used much of the best footage in episode 2. Piper Laurie played Catherine Packard in Twin Peaks, and in 1961 she played Sarah Packard in the film The Hustler. Laura Palmer and many other elements of Twin Peaks are homages to the 1944 film noir Laura, which is excellent and worth seeking out. Laura's homecoming queen photo is actress Sheryl Lee's real prom photo. Early screenings of the pilot brought positive reviews, but most thought it would fail. The Sun Sentinel said, "The Lynchian sense of impending danger and kinky sexual undercurrents, coupled with excellent music, makes the pilot work almost too well. but the series may lay an egg on television because of its drawn-out and deliberate pacing, brutality, sex with violence, and a hint of something else. Something deadly, yet unseen, and probably repulsive. USA Today said, "I don't think it has a chance of succeeding. It is not commercial. It is radically different from what we as viewers are accustomed to seeing." The 2-hour pilot was originally aired as the ABC Sunday night movie. It was the highest-rated movie of the 89-90 season with over 34 million watching, and was the 7th most watched show of the week. Married with Children was number 1 that week. It was nominated for 8 Emmys: Best Drama, Best Directing, Outstanding Lead Actor for Kyle MacLachlan, Supporting Actress for Sherilyn Fenn, Production Design, and Outstanding Writing, and it won for Costume Design and Editing. It also received a Peabody Award in 1990. And critical response was overwhelmingly positive. Boston Globe said it would change television. Entertainment Weekly gave it an A+, but said the show doesn't have a chance in hell because of its unsettling story. The Baltimore Sun compared it to the work of Alfred Hitchcock, saying, "It's about as close as prime-time television gets to art." And the Washington Post said, "It's one of the most finely crafted series kickoffs in broadcast history." In 1997, TV Guide ranked the pilot number 25 on its list of the 100 greatest episodes in television history. Thank you guys for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this, and I hope that you loved the episode. You should certainly keep watching. I think if you might be on the fence and you're not too sure if you will enjoy it, give it till the end of the 3rd episode. And at the end of that episode, you'll know if you're in or if you want to be like, oh, it's not for me.
And everyone, if you guys have any questions or comments, just leave them at the bottom of this video because we're hoping to actually answer some of them in future episodes.
But do please be careful to not spoil anything in any future episodes that are ahead of the ones that we are currently reviewing. So thanks again for joining us. Please, for next episode, watch episode 1 of Twin Peaks, season 1. And don't forget your cherry pie and coffee and donuts.
Yeah, and thank you for investigating Twin Peaks with us. I'm Garon.
I'm JD.
Sweet dreams.